The introduction of condoms in the classroom will come up again in Dominica, this time in debate form. The Literary and Debating Society of the Dominica State College, in collaboration with the HIV/AIDS Response Program, will today hold its first public debate on the topic, "The free distribution of condoms in schools will curb the spread of HIV in Dominica." Advisor of the Literary and Debating Society is Trudy Christian.
A lot, so they should have some pretty good points to put across. And the event will be taking place at the Fort Young Hotel tomorrow afternoon at 3. And we would really like as many young people as possible to come, listen, get the feel of both sides of the issue and decide where they stand themselves. The topic came up because of a call by Nurse Frampton of the National AIDS Response Program to, raise awareness of the dangers of the spread of HIV, particularly among the youth, because as you know, HIV is something, HIV as well as other STIs is, a very pertinent issue, especially for the youth who may be sexually active and not fully aware of, all the consequences. So because of that need to raise awareness, we came up with the idea to hold a debate on that issue. So we think it would be very pertinent for young people that may not know of all the facts or all the risk factors or all the issues surrounding sexual activity. We thought it would be very pertinent to put on something like that.
The event is scheduled for 3 p.m. at the Fort Young Hotel. Dominica's immigration at all ports of entry could soon be upgraded with a computerized system. Minister for Immigration Charles Savra says a machine for the swiping of passports at Dominica's ports of entry is in the making.
Well, with regard to that, we do not at the moment have these machines for the reading of passports. We have the machine at the passport office for the issuance of the passport. But we shall be installing at Melbourne Hall, and that it merely has to do with the facilities that we are gradually introducing. And we will, in fact, since our own passports are machine readable, we will be equipping our ports of entry with the machines which would enable our passports plus passports of persons entering Dominica to be read by the machine so that we would have all of the information which is contained in the biometrics there to determine the bona fides of persons entering. So it will not depend on what the person says on his ED or immigration card. We will be able to check this against the information on the passport.
Dominica's Immigration Minister Charles Savra. Efforts to foster greater collaboration between the education and the health sectors in gender response HIV prevention strategies will be top on the agenda during a roundtable discussion this week. The roundtable discussion is part of a project aimed at strengthening gender response prevention approaches, given the growing understanding that harmful gender stereotypes and relations are a driver of the HIV epidemic in the Caribbean. National HIV and AIDS Response Program Coordinator Nurse Julie Frampton says the project, which started in 2009, has a number of components, including the capacity development for persons in the health and education sectors.
This gender sensitive approach started since last year with UNIFEM. We're looking at how we can make health and education sectors take on a more gender sensitive approach in their programming. And this roundtable discussion is the second phase to that. We did presentations last year to the education sector and to the health sector. So what we hope to achieve this Thursday is to foster greater collaboration between the education and health sectors in gender-responsive HIV prevention strategies. We also hope to discuss the role of education sector in HIV prevention. As you may be aware, they are critical in terms of HIV education for the schools. We also want to determine the key areas and strategies for addressing gender, sexuality, and human rights, for HIV prevention in the sex education and HIV components of the health and family life education program in the schools, to familiarize participants with the sexual and reproductive rights of children and adolescents and the linkages with HIV prevention, and to discuss strategies, policies, and programs geared towards young people in relation to gender and human rights for HIV prevention. So these are some of the objectives we hope to come out of this roundtable discussion on Thursday.
The round-table discussion on the in-gender response HIV prevention strategies will take place at the Garaway Hotel from 8:30 this morning. Dominica's Agriculture Minister Matthew Walter says a new legislation to complement the island's forestry policy could be implemented soon. He told a consultation on a policy for the forestry sector that Dominica's wildlife resource and forest must be properly managed.
Since our very survival depends on the existence of a healthy forest resource, the government of Dominica stands ready to play its part to ensure that our forests and wildlife resources are properly managed in the interest of this and future generations. We will review the existing legislation so that it will complement the new policy. We will move to bring greater focus on the sector, particularly in the aftermath of the creation of a new National Park Service in 2011. This is the opportune moment. Let us not waste each other's time or fritter away the existing goodwill that is assembled here in its diversity. Let us agree to disagree. One thing is sure. Do with our collective good, wise leadership, constructive and purposeful thinking. So let us start working.
Mr. Walter says the role of the forest in Dominica's ecotourism thrust cannot be underestimated.
Dominica must take every conceivable measure to ensure that its forest resources are managed in a sustainable manner. For that reason, time is of the essence. Our country, Dominica, must consequently wake up to the stark reality and consciousness which is rooted in the firm belief that in the absence of forest in its varied diversity, the very foundation of the tourist industry would be at severe risk. We cannot boast about our natural patrimony and biodiversity without giving full recognition to the role and functions of our forests. In other words, without our rich assemblage of tropical rainforest species in all its diversity, securely and legally protected, we cannot speak about a nature island and eco-tourism.
Agriculture Minister Matthew Walter. LIAT's chairman Gene Holder says night landing operations at Dominica's main Melville Hall Airport could give a much-needed booster to tourism on the island. The government of Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit says a project to facilitate this has already been completed and the authorities expect flights to begin landing at Melville Hall at night time in the very near future. Mr. Holder told a state-owned DBS radio the development would help Dominica's tourism take off. He said night landing will be very useful and valuable for LIAT when it happens. In local cricket, when the Dominica Cricket Association matches continue this weekend, games are expected to be shifted to various communities. For more on this, we join Joseph Thomas, Secretary of the Dominica Cricket Association.
The DCA, Dominica Cricket Association, announces its slate of matches for the weekend of the 15th and 16th May as follows. Matches will take place at Botanic Gardens in Roseau, the Point Michel playing field, the Dubla playing field, and Windsor Park. And the matchups, Christian versus Najiko Stars at the Botanic Gardens in Roseau on Saturday. At Point Michel on Saturday, Point Michel Academy will oppose Galion. At Dubla, it will be Grand Bazaar Dubla versus P.H. Williams Colliho. And at Windsor Park on Saturday, New India Cavaliers will come up against Marino Blasters. The Sunday matchups are as follows. Lyricon Starlights versus Trafalgar at Botanic Gardens, and at Windsor Park it will be De Nouveau versus Police. So these are the matches in the Kubali DCA Intermediate League. In the Digicel Augustus Gregoire Premier League, there are no matches, matches in that competition will continue next week.